Alright guys, so this video is a little out of order here. I'm actually back home now. And yeah, the video didn't go out near as well as I was expecting, obviously by the title. I'm not going to get into it all right off the bat. I do want to go through the first part of the trip just because this thing did do phenomenal getting down into Phoenix and climbed a lot of mountain passes, some extreme grade, and just overall did really well. So I want to go through that part first and then kind of get back to what all happened and just the temperature issues I was experiencing. So anyway, I'll go through a map and kind of show you my route here just like usual, and we'll go from there. Alright, so this is the route I took from my house to Phoenix, and it's really cool to show you guys along this route that the just amount of elevation change there is. It was pretty exciting to get to test the Dakota out and just see how it did climbing through the mountains here. So the first section here is, I didn't actually get a video of it, but I went from 4,500 feet in Wheatland, Wyoming up to 7,100 feet around Morton Pass in Laramie, Wyoming. And I usually do a round trip of that, so I averaged 24 to 25 with the downhill. So I was curious how bad the uphill was, and I still clocked almost 20 mpg climbing straight up that pass, so I was pretty pleased with that. And then the next stretch here, this was a shorter run, but I climbed up even farther south of Laramie there, getting into Colorado, got up to 9,000 feet, and then I stopped and got fuel. Alright, I made it to, I think it's Kremling, Colorado. Pretty much surrounded by mountains here, and definitely some beautiful views. And man, have I went through some mountains. I'll have to get the numbers on elevation change, but it's been crazy just all this thing could do to pull some of these passes. I was clear down to second gear and 50 mile an hour for some of it, but I filled it up again here, and 123 miles, 5.5 gallons. So we are at 22, a little over 22 mpg even through the mountains, and just running pretty much a lot of 3,000 plus RPM getting through this terrain, but it's pretty beautiful. So gonna keep on a trekking. So this next stretch was just more mountain up and down, and getting onto I-70 there in Colorado, heading towards Utah. And so we got to relative's house to stop for the night. All right, we stayed the night in Grand Junction. If anybody's ever been around here, it is just the last bit of mountains before we hit the desert area there. A lot of plateaus and stuff around, but anyway, that was another 170 miles, and we went that on 7 gallons, so that is over 24 miles a gallon. So that's pretty sweet. We'll see how it does as it gets hotter here, and try to get some video running. Definitely not liking this 192 thermostat. I'm gonna have to change that out once we get to Phoenix, but we'll keep on a trucking. So this next stretch, I actually didn't get fuel when we stopped here, but had a little trouble with the radiator, so I got a quick clip of that. Alright, well, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, like Denny Hotso or something, probably Indian reservation stuff, and had my first issue. The cheapo coolant drain, yeah, that guy, probably should have replaced that with a bolt, because it cracked the O-ring and then it wouldn't even want to tighten up, so I've got it wired in there. Thankfully a guy with a camper had an O-ring I could borrow permanently, but got the coolant back in there and we're back ready to hit the road again. So minor detail. So finishing out this tank, I did go pretty far on this one, all the way there from Grand Junction down to Flagstaff in total, and a lot of different terrain and mostly AC on after that, so it was a pretty good test of overall MPG. And even getting up to Flagstaff at 7,000 feet again after dropping down into the desert was a pretty good climb, so definitely a good overall MPG check here. Okay, we are in Flagstaff, Arizona. Not that you can really tell, other than that huge mountain up there. Just about to head south towards Phoenix, and we are just getting a fill up here. Stretched it quite a bit, getting the kids a nap in. So we went 436 miles on 18.7 gallons, so right there about 23 and a half MPG still. I can't believe this thing's so consistent. It was pretty brutal there south, or I should say north of Flagstaff. It's pretty windy, you can tell by the video probably, and the trees moving. It was either a side wind or a headwind, and it was 98 degrees there for a while, so definitely had to taper off some on some hills. Temperatures were getting up pretty high. Got to get that 180 thermostat back in this thing, because starting at 200 degrees you don't have near as much room to climb an engine temp and push it hard to hold speed. Man, yeah, it is really windy. So anyway, just thought I'd give you another update here. Hopefully the drive back I'll have more time for videoing, but it is trucking right along, and we're about 2 hours from our destination. That'll be right at 1,000 miles. Alright guys, well this is definitely not how I thought the video was going to end, but I pushed it a little too hard down here. It is just so hot here in Phoenix right now. Probably a combination of things I'll go over once I figure out the exact extent of the damage, but I definitely lost compression on one cylinder, and it's got all kinds of blow-by. So I've got a buddy that's going to tow it home for me, and we'll get it back to the shop and get it torn down, figure out what happened. Alright guys, well the truck still drove itself back in the shop. It's not happy about it, but all in all, definitely thankful for my buddy Trey bailing me out and coming and getting the truck for me so I could still finish my vacation without being completely just killing all my time on it. So that was a huge help. And I guess kind of to go over everything, it was a little chaotic whenever this happened, so I didn't get a whole lot of video of the actual breakdown, but as you guys kind of heard from some of my fuel mileage updates, I had put a 192 thermostat in here because I wasn't getting up to temperature at all, hardly. I don't know if you guys watched my other video up north, the last road trip I took. It's like the thermostat wasn't closing. Anyway, last minute I was like, man, it can't be good for the engine to be running at 160 degrees. So I went to the store, and of course they ordered the wrong one. I always run a 180 in most of my swaps just because it gives me some more temperature room to climb, especially when I'm towing. And anyway, they sent me the wrong one, and then the only thing they had in stock was a 192, so I threw that in there, the stock one, and unfortunately that's probably part of my downfall here. The temperatures were And I guess, I don't know, from what I've seen in a lot of people's swaps and just monitoring it when you're actually using the car pretty hard, they tend to run 5 to 10 degrees over whatever the thermostat is. So I was running about 198, 199, just normal driving, and with the AC on, I was up more like 201 to 204. And then basically as soon as the temperature started getting over like 105, I was struggling to be under 210 at all. And so then you factor in any kind of hills or anything, and I was up to 220 like nothing. And the last few hills into Phoenix, I could tell I was going to have issues just rolling into town. There's some crazy hill climbs there. I think we go from, well, almost 1,000 feet to back up to, what was it, 4 or 5,000 feet, and it was 112 degrees outside. It was nasty. My intake air temps were great with my filter sucking air there on that black hose. I got it sucking air from in the fender. I was probably seeing 130 at the most, so I don't think I had any issues there. But again, my coolant temps were crazy, and then I've still been trying to adjust this tune for this GTD 2056 turbo here, and I believe, I don't know, it's something with trying to control that electronic actuator. The thing is just fluttering like crazy, and we just have not been able to really get that tuned out. And so we were messing with that before the trip, adjusting tunes and backing off boost to try to get the fluttering down. But that just made my EGTs creep up to the point where I was pretty much, and you could kind of see it on my Fargo up north trip, I was seeing 1100 to 1300 degrees pretty much constant, which is probably 200 more than I had been seeing before. But I believe that is part of my issues I had down in Phoenix, because once I got up to over 110 degrees, my AGTs were just constant at 12 to 1300, and they were getting up to 1400 plus on any kind of an incline. So that, with the coolant temps, definitely led to this thing's downfall. I am gonna have to tear it apart for sure, but I was accelerating on an on-ramp onto the interstate, and I just felt, and all of a sudden, I had 25 to 50% power loss, and immediately there was white smoke out of the tailpipe, and I was losing speed. So pulled over, and I had a clean miss, like I'm just running on 3 cylinders, and of course got the hood popped up, and there's obviously tons of blow by, and there's oil everywhere. Come to find out, I mean, the whole engine was just black. I've got it all pressure washed now, but the dipstick tube had shot itself clear out of the engine, and it was just pumping the oil out with all the blow by. So between getting this tube and the valve cover vent into a bucket so I wasn't shooting oil everywhere, I was able to move it around a little easier. But I can definitely tell I've completely lost compression on one cylinder, and it is all coming out of those two pipes. So I don't know if it wasn't super hot whenever it happened, but I was dumping fuel to it, getting on the interstate. So I don't know if I was hot enough to crack a piston. I probably was putting enough fuel in it. I could have burnt a hole in a piston. I may have been burning a hole in the piston the whole time I was down there. It made it about 3 days in that heat before this happened. So I wish I had more information for you, but I don't know when I'm going to get this thing torn apart. I got it in the shop here, so it's ready to go, and we'll see what it looks like once I get the head off. Probably just going to pull the whole engine out because I doubt it's going to be anything I want to fix in the truck. So either that, or I guess there's a possibility I cracked the rings on one piston, but man, it's got enough blow by. It sure seems like there's got to be a hole in one. So we will see once I get it torn apart, and I'll have an update video, obviously, as soon as I get some more information on this thing. But yeah, it was definitely a sad day for the Dakota, but like I say, there's just so many contributing factors. I think I needed to prepare more for that much temperature increase. I took it for a trip at 103 degrees here back home, and it did excellent, but there weren't any hills. And honestly, it did fine until about 105 degrees. That was the turning point where I could not keep, like I say, the coolant temp and the EGTs were just out of control. So, hindsight, I should have flashed a different tune in, should have got a different thermostat in there right away. But unfortunately, those things didn't happen. It was a busy time, and I had to pay to get her home so I can work on it in my shop here. But it is currently 55 degrees outside, so I am very pleased to be taking this apart here. I don't know how much that's worth, but man, the lows in Phoenix were barely below 90 at night. It was nuts. So, got her towed home, and we'll get it torn apart and give you some more information here as soon as possible. So, stay tuned.